Okay, hopefully everything should be working. Let's just make sure that I'm live. Yep, fireworks right now. Hope it's fireworks, right? Um, yeah, we're gonna do a quick stream. I have a few videos pulled up. This one seemed good, but it's 31 minutes. Maybe that's something we're gonna do tomorrow because I want to watch the UFC card. So, um, what is it? Just by like 11, probably. Is the time that I'm gonna have to stop streaming. But my energy's also been like annoying still. Dude, I had vertigo again today. Thank God I wasn't driving. I really got to figure this out. It's like it's getting bad. It's getting to the point where it's like I'm scared to do things. So, well, I'm not like scared to do things, but like I don't know. I don't want to become like a hypochondriac and like psych myself out of everything. It's weird. Hopefully, hopefully I feel better. Hopefully it's just like I don't know, it's like the flu or like just my energy's just whatever. But yeah, so this video is about Emerson. If you didn't know, whenever it says self-transformation and has a picture of an old guy, it's always Emerson. Um, I'm trying to think, what did we talk about last night? I actually just did a video on Emerson, but last night we were talking about Nietzsche and finding yourself, finding the true depths of what it is that you want to be and directing yourself in that manner. And I think we'll stay on this topic today as well because that's really the central focus of Emerson as well. Um, I see Emerson and Nietzsche as interchangeable. I think they pretty much have the same ideas. They just focus on them in different angles and kind of hit it at different points. Because Emerson's is a holistic spiritual sort of philosophy, whereas Nietzsche's kind of the phoenix rising from the ashes. And if you want to understand Nietzsche, you want to read Emerson because he says that we were brothers of the soul, meaning that they really just talked about the same things.
Lead lives of quiet desperation. Henry David Thoreau made this remark over the mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation.
Okay. So if you don't know who Emerson is, you probably know who this guy is, at least what he wrote, the book called Walden. It is one of the best books that was ever written, and I really urge you to pick it up because it really has something to teach you about life. But I'll summarize it very, very quickly because it's gonna go hand in hand with everything I'm about to say. So Walden is basically about a guy that goes into the woods to live for 2 years. I think it's 2 years. I don't remember the exact time period, but basically he lives in a cabin. He lives off the bare minimum and he appreciates everything. He documents everything he does, whether it's, he has a tool to do certain things. He has a place to store his potatoes. He documents how much it costs. And it's honestly frustrating because to do what the road did would probably cost like 20, 30 grand today, whereas it was probably in his time relative like a lot less and a lot more feasible. But again, it's really a story about living on the bare minimum. And I want you to think about this idea and I want you to think about perspective because Thoreau's whole journey was to live like a monk, essentially, to live out in nature so that he could appreciate the things that he did have. If you have 10 cars, how hard is it for you to appreciate all 10 of them? This is really what the Bible talks about. It's not that money is evil, it's the love of money that's evil. And the more of something you have, the more tempting it is to want more. What does Bezos want more than anything? Bezos is probably one of the most money hungry people on this entire earth because he has so much of it. He needs that much more to suffice. It's like an alcoholic. They need to drink much more than somebody that hasn't ever drank. It's that idea. It's the addiction of it. And that's really what we're doing with most of our lives. Most of our lives, we're addicted to something. We're addicted to the feeling. We're addicted to the substance, to the consumerism. And When we start reframing things and living off the bare minimum, then we can free up our attention and energy and time to things that actually matter, to things that are actually fulfilling. 3 seconds in, and I'm probably 10 minutes in the stream.
Henry David Thoreau made this remark over 150 years ago. However, it is an observation that still rings true today. Often this desperation is the product of nagging feelings that we are wasting our life, accompanied by the frustration that despite our desire
Okay, if you feel like you're wasting your life, you are. And that's not a bad thing, okay? And the feeling that you're wasting your life is like it's something that is confronting, it's something that's scary, and it's something that we usually ignore. Because if you feel like you're wasting your life, what that is that's a sign, that's a gut feeling, that's a synchronicity, as Jung would say, that the path you're going down isn't going to make you happy. And yet most of the times people double down. People say, well, I just need to push through. I just need to last another year, another 2 years in this school so that I can get this degree, so I can get this job in the field that I don't like. And it's like, yeah, no wonder you're not happy. Because back then you had the feeling that something was off, something wasn't right. You're wasting your life. And yet you try to double down and think more money, more a better job title, a better house, a better car would make you happy. None of those things have ever made anybody happy. I promise you, there is not a single person on this earth that got something that is really flashy that immediately was like, my life is fulfilled. I promise you. It's the sentimental value. It's the people around you. It's the connections. It's the fact that you had to earn it that make people happy. Like if your goal in life, if your dream in life is to get a Ferrari, it's not actually getting the Ferrari that's making you happy. It's the build up to it. It's the blood, sweat, and tears that went into earning that. Versus somebody that probably, there's probably someone with a trust fund that woke up on their 16th or 17th birthday, whenever they get their driver's license, and then there's a Ferrari in their driveway. Like that doesn't mean anything to that person, but it means so much more to the person that worked and strived and sacrificed and went through blood, sweat, and tears to get to that goal.
to make something of ourselves, the years pass by and nothing seems to change. Phillips Brooks commented that those in this predicament feel the thing they ought to be beating beneath the thing they are. If we ignore these feelings for too long, then we will remain forever haunted by what might have been.
This is really Jungian psychology and Jungian synchronicity, what he's describing. It's think of the mask we wear to be part of society. Think of the things that we sacrifice about ourselves to be in the group. I feel like this is particularly with young men is that there's a creative side that really isn't expressed in anything that gives them any sort of success, any sort of worldly possessions. And because of this, there's always that like biting need to stand out, that biting need to be different, and it just goes undeveloped.
In this video, we will explore how we can escape from a life of quiet desperation and transform ourselves in a manner more conducive to a fulfilling existence. We cannot change anything unless we accept it, wrote Carl Jung. The first step, therefore, is to acknowledge that a change in our
We cannot change anything unless we accept it. Jung was very influential in Alcoholics Anonymous. I was literally about to say, think of Alcoholics Anonymous. Like you can't, until you accept that you're an alcoholic, you can't begin to go forward with it. And I was like, damn, that's why.
first step, therefore, is to acknowledge that a change in our way of life is needed. An easy way to determine how
How do I say your name? I'm sorry. Is it Jimena? I'm sorry if I said it wrong. How's
necessary
it
it is for
going?
us to change is to take note of how often
If I say your name wrong, just yell at me.
we are afflicted by feelings of regret, guilt, anxiety, or depression. Jung believed that in the overwhelming majority of cases, neurotic symptoms such as these are a direct result of an inadequate approach to life and act as signals communicating the necessity of change. It seemed to Jung, wrote Yolanda Jacobi in her book The Way of Individuation, that the meaning of neurotic sufferings might consist in their compelling a man to come to terms with the foundation of his being and with the world, and thereby to gain a better knowledge of his limits and possibilities. Jung thus puts the emphasis on the prospective aspect, giving neurosis a positive
So what she's saying, Jung was saying, is that you need some sort of struggle, some sort of fork in the road for there to be any kick in the ass, basically. It's like before, think of the hero's journey. Before the hero can do anything great, he has to lose. He has to, in some way, face a challenge that he can't overcome, and then he has to train, and then he has to get back up there. And it's true for story developments, but it's also true for life that if you don't experience any hardship, if you don't experience anything that would force you to change, you're not going to change. The mind, the psyche, the individual human beings as a whole, groups, everything is like water. I can't say it right, I'm sorry. Everything is like water in the sense that it finds the easiest path. And this is how we're unconsciously guided. And we'll keep moving along, we'll keep doing the bare minimum until we're faced with a challenge that we really need to dig in, that we really need to say, you know what? I need to change my efforts. I need to go a different way.
meaning, and not regarding it only as a burdensome illness. According to him, it can even act as a stimulus in the struggle for the development of the personality and be, paradoxically,
As Khalil Gibran said, every sorrow deepens your joy. Every time you experience pain, it allows you to appreciate the good times.
a curative factor. When troubled by these negative emotional states, however, most people choose to take the easy road. Instead of changing their behaviors, they try to dull their feelings or flee from them if possible. They take drugs, drink, or distract themselves by pursuing mindless pleasures. In the long run, this only exacerbates the problem, and Jung offered a warning for those who choose this path. We may think there is a safe road, wrote Jung, but that would be the road of death. Then nothing happens any longer, at any rate, not the right things. Anyone who takes the safe road is as good as dead.
So, what he's saying here is fascinating. I've heard him say in other contexts that you'll continually get the same struggles until you deal with them. And I think the greatest example of this is relationships, because I feel like everyone has a few failed relationships or a few. Unfortunately, maybe there's people that meet one person and then that's it. But I feel like until you've experienced some bad relationships, you don't know how a good relationship works, and you're going to continue to have the same issues until you deal with them, until you address them, until you realize that you're part of the problem. Think of people that, oh man, I just can't get lucky with love. It's like, maybe that's you. Maybe it's not the people you're meeting. Maybe there's something in you that doesn't respect yourself enough to find someone that values you. You know what I mean? It's like that ability to understand that, like, if you don't face your fear, you're gonna have to face it further on down the road. And it's always harder to face an enemy that has more time to prepare, more time to take hold of you, more time to surprise you. I said this yesterday, but think of think of your problems, think of your fears, think of everything that you're afraid to face as something that grows with time. It's like a tree. It starts off as something extremely small, little seed, but years and years and years and years and years go by, that tree becomes rooted. That tree becomes something that is very, very large. And until you chop it down, it's gonna get bigger. And you just gotta bite the bullet. You just gotta say, sooner or later I'm gonna have to face it, and I might as well face it now because it's gonna get worse. And when you rip that band-aid off, it's the best feeling ever. And you never look back after facing your fears and say, wow, that was difficult. You always say, wow, that was something that I was really pushing off, but it wasn't as bad as I could imagine. And this is something that Seneca said, the Stoic philosopher. We suffer more in our own minds than we do in reality. It's always much worse in our own heads than we could ever build it up to be. And it's like that with everything. Even
After
with good
accepting that
things, it's that
change
way.
is needed, the question becomes what type of change is most conducive to a fulfilling life? In the mid 20th century, the psychologist Abraham Maslow set out to answer this question. Unlike many of his colleagues who devoted most of their time to studying the mentally ill, Maslow decided to do the opposite. He chose to study those who excelled in life.
See, this is a big problem with modern psychology, is that everything is based off the mentally ill. Everything is based off the neurotic. And I know Freud said that basically everyone's neurotic in their own sense, and it's really only the exceptional people, the mystics, the monks, the people that kind of aren't in the world that are completely sane. But it's also like, why don't we spend the exact same amount of time studying happy people, pleasant people, people that have it all figured out as we do with people that can't seem to get over their issues?
And this led him to an important discovery. The healthiest and most flourishing among us are those who are motivated by trends to self actualization, which Maslow defined as an ongoing actualization of potentials, capacities, and talents, as fulfillment of a mission, as a fuller knowledge of and acceptance of the person's own intrinsic nature, and as an unceasing trend toward unity. Maslow was so convinced of the importance of self actualization that he made the following bold pronouncement: if you plan on being anything less than you are capable of being, you will probably.
So I think this idea is very misunderstood. What he's talking about is becoming everything you're capable of being. It's not about the achievements on paper. It's not about your social status. It's not about anything aside from if you wanted to be a doctor, you became a doctor and you did that job the rest of your life and you were happy doing it. If you wanted to be a teacher, you became a teacher. If you wanted to be a writer, you became a writer. That one hit close to home. But it's this is how Earl Nightingale defines success. Doing something because you wanted to do it. That's success. And that's how we should value ourselves and that's how we should view ourselves. And anything else is just icing on the cake. It doesn't matter. And the more we start to reframe our lives in this way and the more we start to reframe and appreciate the things we have, it's a lot easier and it's a lot simpler.
Be unhappy all the days of your life. But after years of stagnating, years in which our bad habits and destructive behavioral patterns have solidified, how can we become self actualizers? A quote of uncertain origins, but often attributed to Ralph Waldo Emerson, provides some direction. Sow a thought and you reap an action. Sow an act and you reap a habit. Sow a habit and you reap a character.
Okay, this is a terrible quote. There there's an Emerson quote that literally I know off the top of my head, man becomes what he thinks about all day. He should just use that one. I love this guy's videos, but come on, man.
Sow a character
When it comes to Emerson, just ask me.
and you reap a destiny. The first step is the thought, and for those of us striving to live more fulfilling lives, this entails the selection of an aim or purpose to our existence. For as Maslow pointed out, self actualizers are very much defined by a life mission. In making this selection, people sometimes get tripped up into believing that this requires the determination of their true passion. The problem with this approach is that it overlooks the fact that very often our passions follow the development of our skills. Therefore, if you are uncertain of where your passions lie, it is unlikely you will discover them through thought alone. Rather than delaying for too long, it is far better to pick something challenging which sparks your curiosity.
One thing I think that would help a lot of people, especially in this modern day and age, is like to master something. And it doesn't even have to be anything that's applicable. It doesn't even have to be anything that is marketable at all. Maybe that's even a benefit today because now if you are really into a niche hobby, you can gain a following online and that could become your career and your hobby could become your job, which is, if you don't know what the point of the channel is, but um it's once you can master one thing, you can master other things. Something that I've learned is like the better I get at learning and reading and analyzing and tying things together, the more it carries over to other things I do. So whether it's, jujitsu, I can really just see the positions in different positions and it just clicks. And now I'm like, oh, that's why this is happening. That's why this is happening. And it's just me pulling together different philosophical ideas, me pulling together different archetypal images. It carries over to other aspects. It carries over to other concepts. It carries over to law. It carries over to finance. It carries over to other things I'm doing. And, this is something that Miyamoto Musashi said. Once you see the way, you see it in all things. Meaning that if you master one art, you can master any other art. And that's, to me, one of the keys to life. Find something that you like, find something that you can get passionate about, master that, and then you have that skill. You have that skill of learning how to learn. learning how to get good at something, learning how to devote time, allocate energy, understand the process that things aren't going to click, but they're going to click eventually. And when they do, it's boom. Now it's an exponential growth. It goes boom, 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 and then it's like that.
and not worry about whether it is the perfect choice. With that said, the sowing of the thought or the selection of a goal will only be of positive consequence if we reap the actions and build the better habits which ultimately move us forward in the pursuit of our aims. Having something to aim at is important, not so much because of the external rewards achievement of the goal will bring, but rather because of the transformation it forces us to undergo. Pursuing a challenging goal requires us to leave our comfort zone as we develop new skills, cultivate self discipline, and in the process, discover that we are not as helpless as we once thought. The problem for many of us, however, is that we struggle in moving from the sowing of the thought to the reaping of the actions.
Okay, so this is not necessarily true. The problem with so this is what the problem with the law of attraction, law of assumption is that we think the thoughts, but we don't give them the reality of existence. And what I mean by this is, a lot of people aspire to be something. A lot of people say, I'm going to do this when I grow up. I'm going to do this. And then they think that one day they'll be good enough to get it. And that's really the split. That's really the disconnect. That's really the difference between the highest of achievers and the people that will never do it. The wishful thinkers, the daydreamers. And the difference is that the Nikola Teslas of this world, the visionaries of this world, they had an understanding that they were already good enough. They had an understanding that it was just a matter of time before they broke through, and they were acting as if they had already done it. They were acting with the confidence and the experience and more or less tricking their brain into coming up with the idea that they needed. You know what I mean? It's like if you wanted to create a business plan that would work, imagine if you could do it with the experience of someone who had already done it. And that's really the greatest capacity of the brain is that you can imagine yourself into a set of circumstances, into a feeling, into an identity that has already done it. And I mean, it's like the generic non-advice fake it till you make it, but it's so true. Every single person of note, every great writer, every great philosopher, they all had this in common. They were extremely arrogant, extremely, you know, confident in themselves for no reason aside from being confident in themselves. And this is what carries you through. It's really that simple. It's you need to feel like you can do it before you can, and that's what gives you that spark. That's what gives you that idea. That's what gives you the ability to dare to do something. You know what I mean? It's like think of a fighter that like steps up on short notice. They have no right to take that fight, but then they end up upsetting the guy. And that's the whole Rocky franchise right there. You know what I mean? It's like you just gotta try. You just gotta go out there. You just gotta give yourself a little chance. But think of how most people talk to themselves. Think of how most people, especially when it comes to being creative, especially when it comes to, defying the odds, it's always, well, I can't do this because I've been told this my whole life. And it's like you just solidified that there's no possibility. You just granted yourself that there's no ability to improve. That's really what you do when you give yourself these boxes, these limitations. Think of your words, think of your self-conceptions as prisons that you lock yourself into. And if you don't have any sort of mobility in your thinking, any sort of mobility in what you think yourself capable of, then you don't have any mobility in your life. Everything follows from thought. And the thoughts that we have are often so limiting that it prevents us from ever doing anything that, is is, perfectly capable for our abilities.
Often people blame their inability to take productive action on their anxiety, depression, fear, or a lack of confidence in their abilities. Before taking the actions necessary to pursue their aims, such people reason perhaps they must first rid themselves of their negative emotions. This, however, is an approach often doomed to fail. These negative emotional states are by and large the result of faulty behavioral patterns and the avoidance of facing up to our fears and courageously taking on the challenges in our lives that would lead to personal growth. Meditation and introspection alone will never cure us of these feelings. Rather, we must learn that we can take purposeful action even when we are feeling anxious, depressed, or fearful. The importance of purposeful
Oftentimes, it's those moments where we have the idea that is different. It's really. Okay, think of your mood, think of your energy, think of your emotion as a source of energy. And the more energy you have, the more emotion you have, the greater your state of consciousness and the greater your ability to access your creative faculties. Because it's only in a time of great stress and a time of heightened awareness that we can come up with the quick solutions. It's the idea of like giving yourself a deadline, giving yourself a okay, I need to complete this by this. And even if it's an arbitrary one, you usually can work quicker. Your mind is working. You're not procrastinating. It's that idea.
Full action as a cure for our troubled emotions is foundational to Morita therapy, a Japanese school of psychotherapeutic thought. As David Reynolds, a practitioner of the school, explains, realign your life toward getting done what reality sends that needs doing. In other words, we advise you to focus more on purposeful behavior. Let the feelings take care of themselves. What I think you will find is that when you get good at doing what needs doing in your life, the feelings stop giving you such trouble. And even if your feelings become troublesome, when you are involved in constructive activity, they remain in perspective. Feelings cease to be the whole show.
Okay. So what he's saying is go with I hate to simplify it that much, but that's what he's saying. It's do the things that need to be done and don't worry about everything else. The feelings, the emotions are gonna come regardless, good or bad. And as long as you just keep your head down and don't give too much attention to them, then you won't be stressed out. You won't worry. You know, think of the problems that are going on in your life. Most of them are never gonna occur. Most of them are never going to actualize. Most of the doomsday scenarios that you concoct in your mind is purely just you being anxious for the sake of being anxious. It's that, lizard brain need to survive. And the truth about it is it's like unless you're in an active war zone, you don't have to be in the fight or flight state. In fact, the fight or flight state is your biggest enemy because it's the thing that ruins your day, day after day after day. It's the thing that tells you, oh, I heard a cricket, I heard a noise. Is there someone outside? Like, it keeps you up at night. It ruins your sleep. It ruins your day. Like, why listen to that? You know what I mean? If you had a friend that was constantly telling you negative shit, would he be your friend still? No. Then why do you listen to that anxiety? Why do you listen to that, for lack of better words, voice in your head that's telling you that you should be worried? Oh, this went wrong. Everything's going wrong. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, have you ever like dropped something and then you're like, oh, my luck is so bad. It's like, dude, you're alive. Your luck is amazing. I think it's so funny sometimes to just listen to the things that you're thinking and you're like, oh, I'm the biggest idiot in the world. I have a great life. Like I have so many things. Like personally, I have so many things that I'm thankful for. And I oftentimes forget that I have so many things to be thankful for. And yet I'm going to complain if I drop something on the floor. Like I spilled my water twice today, and I'm like, oh, this is awful. It's like I wiped it up 2 seconds later. It's like the things we stress out about, the things that annoy us are so minuscule in proportion to what's going on in the world. How dare we feel any sort of anger or being frustrated or stress or like it's not real. It really isn't. I try to explain this to as many people as possible, but most people want to be stuck and addicted to these emotions. Like, people that are anxious, they're addicted to the sensation of fear because you're going to feel emotions and what emotions are you going to be more comfortable with? Most people aren't comfortable with safety. Most people would rather be like, well, I have to worry about this. I have to do this. It's like, if someone gets in a fight with me, they get in a fight with me. But I'm not going to look around with my eyes peeled and saying, well, this person, they look strong, so I got to worry about, like, it's just so weird.
The ability to act even when we are not feeling up to it is one of the most distinguishing characteristics of self actualizers. For as Thomas Huxley wrote, perhaps the most valuable result of all education is the ability to make your
I wonder if this guy's related to Aldous Huxley. It's so weird. Aldous Huxley is like one of, like, if you look at his family tree, you're like, this guy was connected. Like, what did he know? Like, was he just writing the script for Brave New World?
self do the thing you have to do
I
when it
love
ought to be
Huxley, though. He's
done,
such a good
whether
author.
you like it or not. Furthermore, as Maslow wrote in Toward a Psychology of Being, self actualizing does not mean a transcendence of all human problems. Conflict, anxiety, frustration, sadness, hurt, and guilt can all be found in health.
Self-actualization is the idea that you can deal with your problems. The idea that you can put your energy and time into things that really matter. Because there's no such thing as a life that's without problems. Because, you know, imagine a world where all you hear is good news. How boring would that be? Like, what kind of sick individual wants everything to be good, wants everything to be dressed up, and it's really sad. 'Cause, like, think of like a corporate setting. Like, everything has to be positive, everything has to be happy-go-lucky, and there's certain things you can't sugarcoat. There's certain things that just have to be said. You can say them with more tact, you can say them in a less harmful way, but everything needs to be, oh yeah, we're firing you today. Like, that's what an HR person does. They smile. They're the most, like, I don't know how you could fire someone and smile and say everything's gonna be okay. Like, you know what I mean? It's just it's crazy to me, like the fakeness. And that's really what he's talking about here.
Healthy human beings. Therefore, it doesn't matter who you are or what stage of life you are at, negative emotions will always present themselves. The
Dude, I've never had a conversation with an HR person that I was like, oh yeah, this is you know what I mean? It's like it feels like I'm talking to ChatGPT. Like, I know what I can and can't say. Like, I know what they're gonna understand versus not understand. Like, it doesn't feel like you're talking to a person. It's if you ever read Dune, it's the mentats, it's the human computers, it's the people that really aren't people. That's I don't know, because it takes like you got to be like a Machiavellian-esque figure to be an HR rep. I don't get how people do it. Like, because I'm gonna say what I want to say. I'm gonna be how I'm gonna be. I can't dress it up behind this corporate, basically like military-esque way to speak. Like, Kurt Metzger says it best. Dude, I love Kurt Metzger. He's one of the most entertaining people ever. He just says like the wildest stuff you've ever heard, and it's just so all over the place. I love it. But basically, he's like, you know, the corporate world is everyone's running for office. Like, think like you have to say things in a certain way to a certain person. You have to please your boss's sensibilities. You have to please this other person's sensibilities. You're in a meeting and you can't just say, this is fucking stupid. You have to go, yeah, oh, great idea. Oh, what about the, like, you know what I mean? You're literally running for office on a daily basis, and then we wonder why everyone hates the modern day. We wonder why everyone's so unhappy. We wonder why it feels like there's something missing. It's because we're not being human beings. We're not acting like human beings. And the more you break free from this idea that, well, what about my reputation? What about this? What about that? It's like the people with the highest reputations are always the worst people. Look at the politicians. Look at the horror stories that come out about them years and years later. Even JFK. JFK is so beloved. Some of some really bad stuff, some really despicable stuff in his personal life, and it's like, you know what I mean? Even these mythic godlike figures that if you talk about presidents, the JFK is talked about almost like a Jesus-esque Messiah-like figure, and he could do no wrong, even though there was a lot of questionable things in his past. I like his presidential policies, but I don't really like who he was as a person per se. But you know, it's just the world we live in. You got to do it, right? You don't. You
question
don't.
is, do you have the courage to act in the face of these feelings or not? Those who find such courage will live far better lives than those who cower in.
See, this is an idea that I've been like, well, what if like people don't like me? What if I don't get a job because of who I am? It's like, if I don't get a job because of my opinions, if I don't get a job because people don't like who I am, that's not a job I want to work at. You know what I mean? And I think that's really the mentality we have to have. Like, I think so many people are afraid of their reputation that it's gotten to this place where we all have to walk on eggshells. And I think if more people just spoke their mind, don't get me wrong, there's certain things that if you want to be in a respectable society, you can't say. But the line is just so arbitrary because everyone's so afraid, and it's like three people that actually care, and then everyone else is like, whatever. It's just so
In the
dumb.
face of their fears. For as Emerson wrote, do the thing you fear, and the death of fear is certain.
Do the thing you fear, and the death of fear is certain. there's a section in Game of Thrones, the book series, where basically Ned Stark, one of the main characters you haven't read it, he goes, or they're talking about him, and he's like, there's men who don't fear battle, and then there's brave men. And brave men are men that fear battle but do it in spite of the fear.
An effective
You
way
have
to
to
gain
be
the necessary
afraid to
courage
be
to act in
brave.
the face of your fears is to reflect on the imminence of death. The Stoic philosophers suggested that those who become more aware of just how brief life is will be far more likely to live in the most intense and courageous manner possible, striving to take advantage of each moment.
There's like, think of the juxtaposition as, if you live forever, would you ever do anything? There's no urgency. But the fact that you are only young for a certain amount of time, the fact that you're only here for a certain amount of time, it kind of forces you to do things. It kind of forces you to grow. It kind of forces you to change. That's really the Stoic idea right here.
Steve Jobs, who was clearly a man of action, recognized the power of this method. Remembering that I'll be dead soon, he stated, is the most important tool I've ever encountered to help me make the big choices in life. Because almost everything, all external expectations, all pride, all fear of embarrassment or failure, these things just fall away in the face of death.
This is what ambition is. Um, I guess this would be Jungian psychology, but think of, why do people try to conquer the world? Why do people try to make a lot of money? Why do people want their name in the record books and all sorts of these things? It's all an attempt to leave a legacy that is beyond yourself. It's beyond having kids. It's beyond just passing your genes on. It's the hope that someone will see your statue 100 years later and be like, wow, that guy's cool. So in essence, you live on because your name lives on. And that's really all ambition is. That's really all goal seeking is. It's really all our need to leave a legacy, leave an impact. There's going to be a day and age where people forget who Julius Caesar is. There's going to be a day and age where people forget Napoleon. There's going to be a day and age where people forget everybody that you've ever heard of, that you've ever looked up to. And the only thing that remains is the life that you live. Did you leave an impact on the people in this world? Did you in some way find happiness? Did you in some way experience something? That's the only thing that's permanent. Your memories, your experience. That's the only thing that you can take with you. Everything else fades. Nothing else matters as much as that, but the majority of people are devoting themselves to something that doesn't exist. And there's a part of us that understands this. There's a part of us that understands that every attempt to live forever is futile. It's so funny. It's so funny when you break these things down and you're like, all right, now I'm free. Now I can be happy. Now I can devote myself to whatever it is that I want to do because there's no responsibility. There's nothing you can do that will get you a permanent place in this world. There's nothing you can do that will forever have your name be spoken. And now that you have this freedom, now you can do whatever you want. I love that idea so much. It's a very Taoist idea.
Death, leaving only what is truly important. Remembering that you are going to die is the best way I know to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose. You are already naked. There is no reason not to follow your heart. But awareness of our approaching death is a double edged sword. If we delay too long in instituting the changes required to live a more fulfilling life, and instead of striving to actualize our potential, we fritter away our time, then awareness of our mortality will give rise to nagging and increasingly intense feelings of guilt and regret.
I think it's a fine line because there's also the people that don't try anything because they're like, I'm gonna die. Well, if I do this, it's scary. There's a potential that, oh, if I go down, walk down the street, I might get hit by, like, yeah. But I think it's life's a game of taking risks that you think could pay off, and taking those risks and looking back and going, well, what did I learn from that? Well, I failed. Well, it's fine. What happened? What came out of this? And that's really what I think it's about.
We will have chosen the safe road, which Jung called the
Hold on,
road of
I'll be right back in a second. Ugh. I know everyone here missed me. Trying to think, how long have we going for? Because we're about done with this. Let's say 30, 40 minutes. I don't know. I need to come up with like a I don't even know if it's just like a schedule, right? Where I stream at the same time. But I think I need to start, I need to do like 2 hours here, or 3 hours. Like, I don't know. I don't think 1 hour streams are enough to um get all I want to say out.
Death, and we will spend our remaining days fleeing from the fact that we are wasting our life. In her book, The Way of Individuation, Yolanda Jacoby provides a warning of what can be expected for those who choose this path. Any obstruction of the natural processes of development, or getting stuck on a level unsuited to one's age, takes its revenge, if not immediately, then later at the onset of the
Think of the people that don't grow up. Think of the people that stay in that childlike state the rest of their lives. They're forever stunted. They can't hold down a job. They can't get a relationship because they haven't taken the risks to step out from the mother, step out from what is it? Jordan Peterson would say the devouring mother.
second half of life, in the form
It's so funny that Jung never talked about specific archetypes, but everyone kind of developed them. So like he really only talks about like the hero, the trickster, the anima animus, and broadly some other archetypes off the top of my head. But now like there's so many coined ones. And I think they're really infinite. I think there's some universal ones that you could break it down to like I know there's like 12 Jungian archetypes, but I don't really subscribe to it because it's not something he said himself. It's Jungian scholars, Jungian students that coin these things, and it's like anything. It's like, oh, I this is my contribution to science. This is my thing that I'm credited for. And I think, like I said earlier, ideas, concepts, philosophical systems, they're all limiting. They're all putting something into a box. It's trying to quantify, it's trying to explain. And I think certain things are better left open-ended. That's how I like to take things.
of serious crises, nervous breakdowns, and all manner of physical and psychic sufferings. Mostly they are accompanied by vague feelings of guilt, by tormenting pangs of conscience, often not understood, in face of which the individual is helpless. He knows he is not guilty of any bad deed, he has not given way to an illicit impulse, and yet he is plagued by uncertainty, discontent, despair, and above all, anxiety, a constant, indefinable anxiety. And in truth, he must usually be pronounced guilty. His guilt does not lie in the fact that he has a neurosis, but in the fact that, knowing he has one, he does nothing to set about curing it.
Oh, that was a pretty good video. Let's watch some Norm Macdonald. I love Norm so much. How long is this? Does it tell me? 7 minutes.
Thanks, guys. Listen,
Ooh,
I
I
don't
might get copyrighted. Actually, no, because there's no music.
want to
Okay.
brag or anything, but me and Oprah are making the same money tonight.
I tried to show Norm to my girlfriend. She was like, "What is this?" She was not a fan. I've never, what is it like, red flag, green flag, or was it the ick? I've never had the ick so much than when she was like, "That's not funny." It's like, it's Norm, come on.
But
It's like half the point. He's not.
the show has loosened up considerably. I noticed I was watching Oprah and Dave talking about weed and booze. And I don't do either of those. The hardest drug I ever did, LSD. And I remember as a kid, I was like 16, and I remember they warned me, they said, hey, you gotta be careful with that LSD on account of you can get a flashback. 10 years can go by, 20 years, 30 years,
I don't know why I'm laughing. I know the joke already. I'm
And
just
a flashback will happen. So I thought, hey, that seems like a good deal. You know, you tell me I buy a drug for $5, I eat it, I get high, and then 20 years later I get high again?
oh, what's it called?
That's not the point. I like to stretch my drug dollar. The point is this.
This is one of my favorite videos ever.
But what's interesting was at my Comedy Central roast that John Stamos was the roast master, and all of the comedians
Here tonight.
everything.
So I'm sure everyone's familiar with like the Comedy Central roast, and you know how everyone's like mean and nasty. So like Norm in the perfect Norm fashion goes up there and tells dad jokes. And it's just it's just so funny because everyone else doesn't get the joke, and it makes it even funnier because they're just like, what is happening? And like these are like professional comedians.
Everything about Norm is the big lie.
Bob, you have a lot of well-wishers here tonight, and a lot of them would like to throw you down one, a well. They want to murder you in a well. It's a little harsh, but apparently they want to murder you in a well. It says here on this card.
If you've ever seen his podcast, he'll tell the most horrendous joke, and he'll be like, "Who wrote this?" And it's always him. We gotta fire this guy. He blames it on the car. I didn't write this. This is just perfect.
There's a 20-minute version. There's 20 minutes of footage where the people that were there know what happened in the room. Half of them did, and half of them didn't because they didn't know what was going on because they didn't get it. But he was just taking the shot at doing, and people are like, "This was the most brilliant thing," and it was. But a great stand-up, and Norm was one of the greatest ever.
I think this is Bob Saget talking about him. I think so.
Knows that they're not going to. Bombing is not doesn't matter, and that's what was fearless and
I'm an
beautiful
idiot.
about him. Because bombing is just part of the art, part of the performance of it, and if you can offend, you're in some kind of real special ethos.
No, I think that Bob should join the Ku Klux Klan. And that's not because he's racist. He's not racist. It's just that he'd look a lot better with a hood over his head on account of his face.
He was
I immediately started laughing because I do it. I've the amount of times I've watched this, the amount of times I've watched all these videos is it's bad. It's bad. There was a good period where this is the only thing I ever watched.
doing that by reading these jokes, and then there were about cauliflower.
No, but
If you know me in person, I always just use norm jokes and people don't get them, and it's still so funny to me because I'm like I get it. So you know, it's always the best when you laugh at your own joke and no one else laughs because it's just you're having a good time. You're just you know you're doing what you want to do. You're not trying to perform for others. If they get it, they get it. If they don't, they don't.
Bob has a beautiful face like a flower. Yeah, cauliflower.
Thank God I wasn't drinking water.
No offense, but your face looks like a cauliflower.
But we were doing all that stuff because he idolized Johnny, as all of us did. And so he was. They cut out the, but he wasn't equipped mentally or care enough to make fun of someone. It just, it seemed like oh, okay, that's the joke. Making fun of somebody. Oh, great form. Of course, he's reading the sports section.
I promise you, Norm was alive today, I feel like he'd have, I don't know if it would be a lot to say, but I think he would really roast the state of comedy and really roast what it's become. Because, I mean, think of how many channels now. I don't know if you guys have gotten to this part of YouTube, but there's a million channels that their sole focus is to just make fun of like the same three, four comedians. Maybe there's more at this point, but it's just like, how are these people successful? Like that's their whole shtick. And again, that's that's always gonna happen. But it's so funny because like I feel like it's become so corporatized. I feel like it's become so safe. I feel like nobody's really saying anything that is of note. They're just they're leaning, well, I'm on this side, so I'm gonna say stuff about this. And there's no Carlins anymore. Like, Carlin, you might not agree with him, but he was gonna make you think. And that was really the genius um in his comedy is that as he's trying to entertain you, he's trying to stimulate thought and get you to notice the things that he noticed. And it's almost that like Carlin was one of the greatest social critics of all time, as well as one of the greatest comedians of all time. That's really why I appreciate him. But
while the other comedians
Norm
were
has
doing
that
their
a little bit
stuff.
as
And that
well. It's just not
just,
his main
it's
focus.
brilliance. It's an Andy Kaufman type thing, or anybody who knows what comedy is and doing some kind of, it's just Norm. It's just Norm. It's what he found funny.
Bob Saget directed Norm Macdonald's movie Dirty Work.
It's
Yeah,
such a good movie.
a move that transformed Norm Macdonald into a star, Buck's employee.
And then at the end, and I thought about, do I play it on here right now? And the answer is no. You can watch it. You can see it. I mean, at the end of the thing, he got emotional, and he doesn't mean to do it. He doesn't know what he's going to say, and he doesn't do it that often.
Bob, honestly, has never had an unkind word for anybody, and I love him.
Okay. Let's watch the 7-minute version.
Jacques de Gautier.
This is our own joke.
Back, I'm sitting with Norm Macdonald, and now not all your material comes from the news. Is that right?
No, some of my material my strongest material comes from real life.
Real life.
Like, for instance, today I was driving in a car. You were kind enough to bring a car to bring this old chunk of coal here to the studio.
We send cars for our guests. Yes.
Yeah, so I got in it, and I get material that way. So my driver.
What do you mean? How do you get material that way? You get in the car, and what happens?
So I'm like, I know Conan's a really turned on guy. I know he's really smart, but at some points, I think he doesn't. I don't know if he feigns ignorance, but I feel like at certain points he doesn't get what Norm's doing, and he just when he realizes, he's like, "Oh, he got me." It's their interviews together are just it's just hilarious, and it's bittersweet because then you look back and you're like, wow, like Norm, he's not here anymore, but at least we can remember remember him from these videos. I've never been sad about a celebrity death, but Norm Macdonald I was sad about. Like it did. I was like, oh, you know, not him, not him. Because there's always like I don't know, there's always people that resonated with us, and this is gonna sound bad. Like this is gonna sound like I have like a parasocial relationship, but it's like you develop a sort of affinity for people, and they sort of shape you in a way. They sort of influence you in a way, and it kind of is like a pseudo relationship, a pseudo I don't know, like how you are with authors. Like, you read an author, you kind of develop a conversation in your head that is stimulated by this person, and that kind of makes you enjoy them. That makes you like them. And that's really how I felt with Norm, more so than any other celebrity.
My driver tells me a joke.
The driver we sent to pick you up told you a joke.
Yeah.
And you're going to tell it now on the show.
Yeah, that's how I get a lot of my material.
Okay. Why don't we just have him on next time?
That guy. That guy. No, wait till you hear me do it. So the guy, he goes, I say, I'll be the guy.
Okay.
A moth goes into a podiatrist's office.
A moth goes into a podiatrist's office. All right.
You are correct. A moth goes into a podiatrist.
I've tried to tell this joke and just it's not the same because I can't deliver it the way he delivers it. The more you start to like notice these things, the more you start to like read about these things, you can see like the subtle shift in body language. It's not even that the greatest comedians are the funniest people. I feel like there's funny people all around. It's the way they can, inflect their words. It's the way that they can change their tone, and that's the same thing. It's the body language. It's the effect they have on the crowd. This is why I think like watching a stand-up comedy special is completely different than going to a club to watch it. Like I don't like watching stand-up comedy. But if I've gone in person before and it was 10 times better. Like I promise you, if I watched that same set of the guy I went to, I'd be like, yeah, I'd probably turn it off. But when you're there and you feel like that magnetic pull of the person on stage, and they're setting things up, and there really is an art and a craft to it.
Podiatrist's
I
office,
sound like Joe Rogan talking about comedy, right?
and the podiatrist's office says, "What's the problem?" And the moth says, "What's the problem? Where do I begin, man?" He goes, "I go to work for Gregory Linovich, and all day long I work. Honestly, Doc, I don't even know what I'm doing anymore. I don't even know if Gregory Linovich knows. He only knows that he has power over me, and that seems to bring him happiness. But I don't know. I wake up in a malaise, and I walk here and there." The podiatrist says, "Oh, yeah?"
Can you imagine like being in this like because you could hear these people are like they're doing like forced laughter, like they're not he didn't say anything funny. They're just like they feel awkward so they're laughing. Can you imagine like being a crowd at this taping and not seeing that this masterful joke is being told? I promise it's gonna all make sense soon.
And the moth goes, "Yes." And he goes, "At night, I sometimes wake up and I turn to some old lady in my bed that's on my arm. A lady that I once loved, Doc. I don't know where to turn to. My youngest, Alexandria."
I feel like the best part about this joke is he like tells it with so much heart. Like as he's doing it, he's like getting into it, and it's just wait.
She fell in the cold of last year. The cold took her down, as it did many of us. And my other boy, and this is the hardest pill to swallow, Doc. My other boy, Gregorio Ivanilidovich.
I hate that I'm laughing so much, but I know I already know the joke, and I'm like premature laughing, I guess you say.
I no longer love him. As much as it pains me to say, when I look in his eyes, all I see is the same cowardice that I catch when I take a glimpse of my own face in the mirror. If only the
Conan just like, what? Why did I invite this guy on? Every time he just derails the whole show.
cowardice was stronger, then perhaps I could bring myself to reach over to that cocked and loaded gun that lays on the bedside behind me and end this hellish facade once and for all.
How long a drive was this?
You can tell he's getting impatient. He's like, all right, we need to make these people laugh. Like we need to pander to the crowd. And Norm just is having none of it. He's telling this because he knows Conan's gonna laugh, and he's just that's tremendous.
Do you live in the valley? Where do you live? Please, sorry.
He says, "Doc, sometimes I feel like a spider, even though I'm a moth, just barely hanging on to my web with an everlasting fire underneath me. I'm not feeling good. And so the
All of this for this punchline. You guys ready? You guys ready for this?
doctor says, Moth, man, you're troubled. But you should be seeing a psychiatrist. Why on earth did you come here? And then the moth said, because the light was on.
He's like, all right, I see what you did. Because I don't know if he was like actually mad or just playing it up. I don't know if they rehearsed it before, but if they did a good job of like being impatient. But it's funny because like he shows like, all right, you didn't waste their time. You didn't bomb. You weren't.
My congratulations to anyone who stuck it through to the end. So, Norm,
What?
we're pretty much out of time.
I promise you, everyone in this crowd was a fan of Norm for the rest of their lives after that. It sucks because I feel like it's like this with every field. Like the greatest musicians are usually unknown. Um, you know, maybe back in the day it was different. Maybe back in the day it was more merit based. But I feel like today, like, there's probably some indie artist. There's probably somebody that is like on the back burner that just doesn't fit the corporate structure, that doesn't, curtail their values, and they're probably unknown. I mean, it's the same thing with writers. Most writers don't really get recognized until a few hundred years after their death. William Blake was all but dismissed, and he's probably the greatest poet who ever lived. Um, Tolkien's works have grown in popularity and are probably going to become something of, you know, Western culture mythos and something that will forever, like, you know what I mean? I feel like it's very rare where people get the recognition they deserve. It's almost nice though because I feel like Norm has his own fan base now that has only grown in size. But like, it's rare where someone that's this talented ever gets the shine that a Kevin Hart would get, or I guess you say Joe Rogan is up there as well. Dave Chappelle. You know, I not to dig on any of those people, but I just think Norm is he's one of those people that you either hate him or love him. But if you love him, you love him. You're never he could do no wrong. That's how I see him. But yeah. What time is it? 10. Probably gonna end this now. Thank you guys for making it. Thank you guys for being here. It was a fun stream. I ranted the whole time, so I'm losing my voice. But yeah, hopefully I can stream earlier tomorrow. I feel like I've been streaming late, and I don't know. I feel like it'll be better for me to stream earlier because then I can go later. I won't be as tired. Like I won't have the excuse of like, oh, I got to get to bed so that I can wake up early. You know what I mean? Like I have no excuse to not stream longer. So with that said, see you guys in the next one. Peace out. Love you guys so much.